Hey everybody, it's Tony George. Welcome to Tony's Time. We haven't named the show yet. We're still considering all the names. And of course, this is Tony's Time NFL Thanksgiving weekend edition, along with my good buddy, IC Indian Cowboy Arun Shiva here. And we're breaking down some games here. We just had a late breaking news as we tape this on Wednesday morning that the Baltimore Ravens and the Pittsburgh Steelers game has been postponed, I think moved to Sunday or Monday. I don't quite have all the information. I know that Baltimore has some COVID issues here. And of course, as we're taping this, Arun, an exciting Wednesday before Thanksgiving as college basketball tips off today as well. So got some college basketball offerings out there. Big slate of games. Just in general, before we get to the NFL, how big of an effect do you think that COVID is going to have on this college basketball season? I mean, you're pretty much going to have to be on top of it 24/7.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, today is an indication of it, right? I mean, you have Pittsburgh and Baltimore just gets canceled, and just like that, you have to kind of be on your feet at all times. This season, you have a game handicapped, and, for example, this would have been on my card, the Pittsburgh-Baltimore game, and now that it gets canceled, and now you got to flip in another selection possibly in it. So it's one of those things where your head kind of has to be in a swivel, and as it relates to college basketball, it affects it even more, right? In football, you got 11 players, right? And in college basketball, you have 5. So if the star player goes out or if the secondary player goes out, that impacts it a lot more than, let's say, one offensive lineman or one defensive lineman for a team. So I think it's going to have more impact in college basketball than in other sports. But I really hope we get March Madness, man, because I think Baylor could have won it all last year, and it's a shame for them. And so I'm really looking forward to March Madness. And but in one way, it's karma for the NCAA. For as much as they have milked players over and over and over again, it's kind of nice to see them kind of take it up to what, because they've been milking these players for a while. So it's kind of nice to let them appreciate these players for what, the amount of money they bring to the NCAA organization,
Right. Yeah, I agree. I think I've done a lot of work in college basketball here, and hope it open up 2-0 here on Wednesday. We'll have college basketball games up all over the holiday weekend. And, of course, all football plays over at DocSports.com. Usually out on Thursday, folks, at 3 Pacific. They're out Wednesday at 3 Pacific. So as you're watching this video, all of our weekend picks are up. Last week, I would be remiss in my duties. I did not win a single game in the NFL last week. So I had a bad week. I tell it like it is. We don't pull any punches on our daily videos. We tell you exactly what's going on. And so I'm looking for a little redemption this week. And let's start out with one of the games on Thanksgiving Day, the NFC East clash between the Redskins and the Cowboys, Arun. And it's interesting. Apparently, the buy sign is on for Dallas. They got a win last week. Bad spot for Minnesota, but they got a win last week at Minnesota. Dalton came back. I have Washington 1 point better in my power ratings than Dallas, and Dallas is laying 3. You also have a team catching 3 that has the 6th-ranked defense in the NFL against one of the worst-ranked defenses in the NFL. That's okay if your phone rang. That's okay that the alarm is going off because I'm giving out a handicapping 101 tip. Whenever you have a defense in the NFL that's better than the other one catching points, that usually will set off an alarm or two, and it just did. And I really think that, honestly, in this game here, total 46, Dallas laying 3. And, of course, the total opened up at 48 and went down 2 points, which kind of surprised me here a little bit. The one thing about the Redskins that hasn't gone unnoticed with me, at least, Arun, is the fact that Alex Smith has risen from the ashes. A guy who thought that he could never walk again, let alone play in the NFL, has come in and did a hell of a job. And bear in mind, despite the leg injury, if you put that out of your memory bank, this guy was a rock star quarterback at San Francisco. Before that at Utah. He was the number 1 pick in the draft. He played hellaciously good football in Kansas City for Andy Reid. They let him go after they drafted Mahomes. Good reason. But at the end of the day, this is a damn good quarterback that doesn't put his team in harm's way. He's had a couple games where he had some interceptions. He was rusty, but he's been sharp. And I think that the Washington Redskins here probably are a little better coached as well. I haven't seen anything out of McCarthy to give me a buy sign on him that he's got a handle on the Cowboys locker room here. Honestly, I think the wrong team's favored, and I'm going to lean Washington in this game.
Yeah, I could dig that. What's interesting is every single team in the NFC East has 3 wins. Either they're 3-6 or 3-7, which is just crazy. Every team is tied for first, basically. I mean, it's the craziest thing in the world, and they have 3 wins. They have sub 500 winning percentages, and not just sub 500 winning percentage. They have like 30% winning percentages. So it's quite remarkable. You know, Washington beat this team 25-3 earlier this year. So Dallas does have some revenge. Now, did Andy Dalton come through? Yeah, they did. You know, he put up 31 points against Minnesota. And to Dallas's credit, they did put up 19 points against Pittsburgh, too. So they've had back-to-back kind of good games, which is kind of shocking. But before that, they've given up 9. They only put up 9 against Philly and 3 against Washington and 10 against Arizona. So, you know, there was a point where they'd only put up 22 points in 3 games, and now they put up 19 and 31 points. Dallas has Baltimore on deck, and Washington has Pittsburgh on deck. However, this is a Washington team that when they want to play defense, they can really get after you, you know? And it's actually surprising to see Dallas -3 because I think it's an overreaction to their win against Minnesota.
Yeah.
But if anything here, I kind of lean on the over just because the last one went under the posted total. But I think the tenor of this game is going to be different. This Washington team has started to really kind of pick it up offensively. They just look smoother, 25-20, 27. Over the last 3 games. I think they're starting to identify who their roles are as far as receivers and running backs and stuff. And I just cannot imagine the Cowboys scoring 3 points like they did against Washington last time. At the very least, I think they put up 3 touchdowns. So I kind of lean on the over right now.
Yeah, that might be a good play there. I think the line's moving in the wrong direction. I just, like you said, I think this is an overreaction. I mean, Wash, okay, so you beat Cincinnati last week. And by the way, before Burrow went down in that game, Cincinnati was leading. So it wasn't looking good. So they got an added boost in that game in order to get them over the top here. But I think they're going to be a pesky. If I was to bet this game, I honestly think Dallas on the money line -165. I'm not going to lay the 3 with them. If you like Dallas, might be worth the stretch on the money line, but I just think that I think the Redskins going to go the Washington football team. I'm old school, but I think they're going to go in there and give them a ball game here, and I just can't. You never can ignore the better defense in the NFL getting points, and I realize that I've been doing this 29 years, and that's maybe a Mike Lee, my mentor, old school philosophy, but it still pays dividends. Dallas, bear in mind, has one of the worst defenses in the NFL. I mean, there's no doubt about it. There's going to be a lot of points scored here, and that gives a live dog chance to Washington. I'd lean Washington and probably the over. Interesting game on Sunday as we switch gears to Sunday. Your Atlanta Falcons. You had a good call on them last week on the show. You thought that this might be the game they get their ass kicked, and by God, they did. Against the Saints. I mean, that was a good call on your part. I wanted to tell that on my premiums, but just couldn't pull the trigger. And I guess I probably should have because I was a little unsure about the quarterback situation in New Orleans at the time, and that gave me a little bit of pause. I guess it shouldn't have, but they're taking on an established quarterback this week that had a hell of a game against Kansas City. Carr probably outplayed Mahomes except for the last drive of the game in the Sunday night football game, and the Raiders almost pulled off the 2-0 sweep against the Kansas City Chiefs. Gruden's got them playing some good ball right now. They go on the road, and they're laying 3 points total, around 55 in this game, last I checked. I think this is going to be a hell of a good football game, Arun. And I'm just curious to know. I kind of think that Atlanta, after, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, because I know you follow this team from a fan perspective. I thought maybe Atlanta might thought off the bye week they could come out, win a bunch of games, and get at least in the wild card hunt for the playoffs. And I wonder how deflated they might be after getting not only beat, but just basically getting taken out behind the woodshed and getting it handed to them. And a lot of the same key elements that the Saints used to beat them, the Raiders employ offensively. And that might be a big concern here for Atlanta. And, the Raiders didn't want to play any defense against Kansas City. They wanted to trade punches with them on the scoreboard. If they do that here against Atlanta, I still think they have an advantage because Kansas City offensively is a lot better than Atlanta, just has more weapons. So I'm interested to get your thoughts on this game before I give a lean.
Yeah, I think this is a really dangerous game because I told you in our show last week, I said, Tony, I like the Saints. I think they're going to beat up on my Falcons. I think, at some point we're going to have a letdown and this is going to be the game. Yep. And I'm a big fan of Taysom Hill. And I was a fan of Jameis Winston. I think regardless of who plays that game, the Saints are going to win because Peyton's such a good coach. It's more of not who is a quarterback. It's the fact that Breeze wasn't the quarterback and the amount of focus is going to be there for that team to come through without him being quarterback. Now, having said that, I also mentioned to you that I was going to take the Falcons as a lean regardless when they face Vegas this week. Because I think they're going to run into some issues with Atlanta because I think if Raheem can win this game, it really makes it's this game and that Tampa Bay game that's coming up for Atlanta. It makes a case for him for a starting coaching job. Now, the Falcons might already have somebody in mind anyway, but regardless, right. I think if you beat John Gruden off of a loss, I think it shows. And technically, this team is 3-2 with him, but they really should be 4-1 if Gurley takes that knee. But you would have to think that the Falcons, and that's why it's the +3. I thought the line is going to come out like 4.5, and the public will jump all over Vegas, and the line comes out even at +3. Matt Ryan had 0 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Julio only had, I think, 2 targets. I think Julio is going to ball out this game. I think Ryan's going to play much better. I think I'm more concerned about Vegas having the hangover from losing to the Chiefs because you have a hangover and now you're going to face a hungry Atlanta team. I think it's a really dangerous game, and I think Atlanta has a great shot at winning this game outright or, losing by 2 or 1.
Right. Well, I'll tell you one of the best teaser bets on the board is taking Atlanta up in a 2-team 6-point teaser, taking them up here at a +9. You're getting them off 3, you're getting them through 6 and through 7. Stick them with somebody like Cleveland, who I don't expect to cover 6.5 against Jacksonville, even though Mike Glennon's starting a quarterback for them. And we're going to talk about that game next, but maybe tease Cleveland down to a 0.5 point and then tease him up to 9. You might have yourself an easy money winner there, -120 here. I'm gonna solely put the responsibility of the pick of this game on you. So Arun is going to take the Dirty Birds over the Raiders, and it is a tough spot, I think, for the Raiders. And the Raiders have a brutal schedule coming up. In order for them to get in the playoffs here, in my opinion, with this schedule they have down the road, I think it's good. This is a huge game for Las Vegas. It's a huge game. This is a winnable road game against a team with a losing record that has trouble stopping people. That being said, it's also a bad matchup for them. If you look at man-to-man and the things that people are able to exploit against Atlanta, Las Vegas can do. But on the other hand, vice versa, the things you can exploit Las Vegas against defensively, Atlanta can do. So that leads me to believe it might be a high-scoring game here. The 55 might be in play. I think that would be the way. If I had a gun to my head, that would be the straight-up choice I'd make in this game. But I do think Atlanta and them go back and forth here in a ping-pong match, and I think that Atlanta catching 9 in a teaser would be a great game there. Speaking of great games, this might not be a great game, but it's an intriguing game to me, Arun, and that is Cleveland now goes away from the cold and the wind and the rain and some of the conditions that they've had at home that have benefited them in ball games, and they're going down to at least warmish Jacksonville. My question to you is going to be plain and simple. Jacksonville's got quarterback issues. I heard Mike Glennon was going to start, but at the end of the day, is Cleveland ready to go on the road and lay 6.5 points against anybody right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think they are, and it kind of stinks saying that because you never know what to expect out of Cleveland. You're just not sure how much to really trust them. But the simple fact, first of all, Cleveland's not good at covering games. They missed 4 straight covers, and then they just missed another cover to the Eagles. But that's because Carson Wentz is the worst quarterback, arguably, in the league. Carson has the worst turnover percentage, worst third down percentage. He's really, really bad this year, and somehow they're still tied for division first. But this is a Cleveland team that's only scored, I don't think they busted out on offense, really. They've scored 6 against Vegas, 10 against Houston, and 22 against Philly. And I think it's only a matter of time before they get that offense kind of fixed here. And you have a Jacksonville team that's given up at least 24 points in every single game this year, except the first game of the year. So they've given up at least 24 points in their last 9 games. And Cleveland needs to have a big bust out, if you will. And I think Cleveland also understands that they have Tennessee and Baltimore coming up too. So they need to win this game. And just because you're 7-3 doesn't mean you're going to make the playoffs in the league. Because if you lose this game, and then you could easily lose the Tennessee and the Baltimore game, they're 7-6. And I don't think they get in. In other words, I think they're probably going to win this game, but I think they're probably going to lose the next 2. So they're 7-3 now. They'll go to 8-3, and then they'll go to 8-5. They cannot lose this game. And Jacksonville was a great dog, at the end of the day to Green Bay, which was one of my plays for that week. I actually, more than the side, I like the over. You know how I feel about when new quarterbacks come in. There's just a new sense of excitement and blah, blah, blah. I think Jacksonville can be a decent dog. I think Cleveland is going to bounce back offensively. I think it's going to be a high-scoring affair. So probably like 31-27 maybe in favor of Cleveland.
Yeah, I like the dog here. You take a look at some of these numbers, and I'm looking them off the screen here. Let's just look at points scored. For a team with Cleveland's record, they're scoring 23 points a game. Okay? They're allowing 26 points a game. I mean, that's unbelievable. And then you take a look. Okay, so Cleveland's defense allows, let's go, 26 points a game. Jacksonville's defense, as bad as they are, allows 29. You look at offensively, Jacksonville's offense scores 20 a game. Cleveland scores 23 a game. On the road, try to tell me why there's a 6.5 point, 7 point spread in that game. I don't know. And you got a quarterback you have no film on. And like you said, sometimes a new quarterback interjects a little bit of enthusiasm and kind of got an aura around him, so to speak. I like the underdog in this game. I'm going to go out and call Jacksonville as an underdog cover here, big time. A good game here out in Buffalo. Curious to know your thoughts on this. Buffalo at home opened up at 6, now down to 5.5, total 53.5, up from 51.5 here. I think this is going to be one of the better ball games. Obviously, we have Tennessee playing the Colts second time around, but I think this is going to be one of the better, more entertaining ball games of the weekend, Arun. And I'm going to have you try and talk me out of taking the underdog here. I think I know we can't count on them to win a game. They're notoriously good on the road. I know about Anthony Lynn's struggles, but Buffalo has not done a whole lot to impress me over the last 5 weeks. They've gotten by. I think the Seattle game was just that was a tough game for Seattle. That was the third road game to the East Coast in 6 weeks in between conference opponents, division opponents. It was just a bad scheduling spot for them. Los Angeles could easily have 3 more wins than they have right now. They've given away 3 games this year. I think this is a very good football team, and I think they're progressing with their new quarterback, where I think what I've seen out of Buffalo, a little bit of regression as the season's gone along. I think and 5.5 is one of the worst. Remember, we're betting numbers and not games. I think 5.5 is one of the worst numbers to lay in the NFL here. I kind of like the lightning bolts up there, and the weather is supposed to be halfway decent. We're not going to have a blizzard and 40-mile-an-hour winds up in Buffalo in Sunday in late November here. So I think this is a very intriguing matchup, and I'm thinking underdog here. I don't know what you're thinking. I know there's going to be a lot of points scored, but I think underdog here might be in play.
Yeah. It's funny. I think the Chargers are the girl that looks good from afar, but when you get close, you're like, I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I dated that. I dated that chick many times, by the way.
I'm going to plug this in.
Yeah.
Hold on. Yeah, I wanted to plug it in so in that way. But no, they look great from afar, but when you get close, you get scared. I'll give you an example. They balled out against Tampa Bay, yes, right? And they got balled out against New Orleans, yes. But what do they do against the Jets? They struggled. They nearly lost. Yeah. So I think that, when you expect them to do well, they don't. When you don't expect them to do well, they do. I think Buffalo off of a loss is very interesting. I think Buffalo can play angry when they want to play angry. And I think the Chargers can be very, very fickle as well. So I actually like, and I know Buffalo is a public favorite, but I actually like Buffalo only because I don't know how these Chargers will handle coming off of a win. I don't know how they handle success, but I do know how Buffalo typically handles a loss, and they're going to be upset because at the end of the day, Miami is charging right now. Miami is charging right now. And Buffalo, and these Chargers could just be, chops for the picking for this Bills team. At the end of the day, the Chargers looks like they're not a good team. They can score some points, but there's some real deficiencies at times in this team. And they just figure out ways to lose games. Yeah, they hung in there only by 5 points against Vegas. They lost. Hung in there against Miami, lost by 8, but they still missed every cover. They lost to Denver by 1. They missed their last 4 covers as well. I wouldn't be a bit surprised if the Chargers hung tight. However, I think the Bills coming off a loss is interesting. Remember, the Bills lost 16-42 against Tennessee, and they played pretty tight against Kansas City. They still lost by 9, but they played them pretty close. Now, this is the next loss they've had against Arizona, giving up 32 points to Arizona, and that too on a Hail Mary. That's got to be the biggest sucker punch ever, or else this team should be 8-2 right now. Yeah, I can see the Bills winning by double digits. So small lead on the Bills, but nothing to write home about because I don't trust either of these teams fully.
Well, you're fully committed now, and I'm on the other side, so this is our steak and a beer game. I'm going to go ahead and take the Colts here with Herbert at quarterback and equal, if not better, defense in some respects. Definitely on the defensive line, a better team here. We'll see what happens. I think it's going to be a hell of a ball game. I can tell you that right now.
Yeah.
Let's get to the big one. I mean, everyone's talking about it. Tennessee off a big win last week against an overrated Baltimore team, in my opinion, but nonetheless a big win. And they're taking on the Colts, who embarrassed them 2 weeks ago on a Thursday. I mean, flat out took them out behind the woodshed, an old-fashioned ass whipping. I think this is, an intriguing game here. I still, 9-10 games into the season, cannot quite put my finger on who the Colts are, what they are. They seem to get it done with smoke and mirrors at times here. And they're laying 3. I think the hook is on this one. Let me get the updated line here from my Don Best live odds, and we have. See if this has changed. Okay, it's Indianapolis opened up 4.5, total 49. It's now 3.5, total 51. At home here, you think Tennessee exacts some revenge here, or do you think the Colts just too much for them?
Yeah, Mike Vrabel's kryptonite is Frank Reich, and I think the Colts are going to do it again. I think Tennessee, I think I just think Frank Reich's the better coach, and it's becoming more and more obvious. because when you play kind of like big boy football, that's what Tennessee loves to play, like when they face the
Yeah.
Ravens and stuff like that. Plus, how many times have we talked about it on the show, Tony, that Lamar Jackson is not a
Yeah.
great quarterback. I
Oh, he's
mean,
not.
yes, he was an MVP, and I get all that. But you and I both know when you stack up the box and make him throw the ball, he struggles. And what the Colts are able to do is they're able to run the ball, but they also have Philip Rivers who can still sling it for 200 yards. To beat the Titans, you need to be able to sling the ball for about 250 yards to 200 yards to keep teams honest. And they have a great defense and great special teams, and they play really smart. And that's the reason why the Colts do well. It's not an accident, but the funny thing is the Colts don't match up well against Baltimore at all, but they match up great against Tennessee, which is what's funny
Yeah.
about it. It's like in tennis, sometimes your serve is not great on righties, but it's phenomenal on lefties, or your serve is great on righties, but when you face lefties, it goes to their forehand. So it's kind of like that. So this Colts team is, first of all, they gave up. They come off that big win against Green Bay, but still gave up 30 points. But their defense is much, much better than that. There have been a total of 4 games, Tony, or actually 5 games. The Colts have given up 21 points or less. I mean, that's a really,
Yeah.
really good defense. Do you really trust the Titans to do any of that? No. I think the Titans had, 2 games where they gave up 17 to Chicago, who doesn't even count, who's terrible, and 16 points against Buffalo in what was everybody thought Tennessee had COVID, so they were mad at the world. They missed the protocol, so they beat up on them. I think Tennessee is very predictable at times, and I think Frank Reich knows that. I think they got a great defense. Everybody's going to jump on Tennessee, but I think the Colts are probably going to end up winning it by 5 or something.
Yeah, I agree. I do agree with you wholeheartedly here. Also, Ryan Tannehill has a lot of problems against a good pass rush. He's not near as good a throwing quarterback against a good pass rush, and the Colts have a very, very good defense. It's not a facade. That's one thing I can put my thumb on, is the fact the Colts can play some good defense despite giving up a lot of points last week. This is a good defense here, and I like fading a team off an overtime win, especially when they're on the road the next week. And you kind of got that little factor in there as well. Our final game of the week, and don't forget, folks, you'll see this right here, Capper Cup, courtesy of oddshark.com. Both Arun and I are over there in the Capper Cup. Want to give them a shout out. There's a big contest over there, about 20 guys, and we're participating in that. And I'm not participating very well after last week's debacle. I was in the top 10, but nonetheless, I want to give them a shout out. You want to get hooked up over Thanksgiving here with not only NFL, college football, and now college basketball. You'll notice right above our heads there a free $60 account. Be sure and click the link in the description below here and go get a free $60 from Docs to open up an account and utilize it for some daily packages of football and basketball over the weekend and whatever else we got up there as well for everybody. So be sure and click that link. Get yourself hooked up. Our final pick of the week is my Kansas City Chiefs, who did not cover. The only play I had out on Sunday as a 6-unit play last week, and they did not get it done. They did not play defense. However, they got the win, which in their book's all that matters. In my book, it sucks. But nonetheless, they're taking to the road to take on Tampa Bay, who was again thwarted by another team with a good defense. Anytime Tampa Bay plays a good team with a really good defense, they get it handed to them. And Brady, to me, looked like he was afraid to take a hit. He was getting rid of the ball early and then throwing up his arms like it was the receiver's fault. Stand in there and take a hit. Either you want to play football when you're 42 or you don't. If you want to play big boy football, you got to stand in there and take the shot and deliver the strike. Now, that being said, now they're playing a team this week, much like Carolina 2 weeks ago, when they played the Saints the week before the Carolina game, had 3 points and got their ass kicked. The Saints have maybe one of the most underrated defenses in the NFL. Then they go play a team that doesn't have a good defense. They light them up for 46 and blow them out. Then they turn around and play a team the next week, Monday night, the Rams, with a good defense. They look like a monkey humping a football. Now they're back to playing a team that does not play defense. Kansas City secondary will be suspect to the players that Tampa Bay has going out for passes, including their tight ends. They don't have as strong a pass rush as either the Saints or the Rams. Now, Kansas City on the other side of the ball is going to do whatever they want to do against an overrated Bucs defense. Their defensive backs couldn't cover the Rams. They couldn't stop Goff. They couldn't tackle. And if you couldn't do that against the Rams receivers and Jared Goff, you're sure as hell not going to do it against Patrick Mahomes, who, by the way, is a mobile quarterback, and his receivers, which are 10 times better than what the Rams have. So, to me, Kansas City laying 3.5 on the road, total 55.5. I'm going to tell you right now, my official free play on this show is Kansas City here by a touchdown at least. Your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I think that's accurate. More than anything, I probably like the over here, and I generally like to fade the public in general. But a couple things here. First of all, you have a Bucs team that gave up 380 passing yards to Jared Goff.
Yeah.
The Rams are so bad on offense. I don't think they had ever scored more than 24 points in however many games. And these Bucs are really, really bad. So I think you bring up a great point. They're really bad on defense, first of all. And the Bucs only, had 210 passing yards, and Brady was horrible. He was 26 for 48. And the press asked Bruce Arians, why doesn't Antonio Brown have any big play catches? And Arians goes, well, he was open. So he was taking a shot at Brady, saying that Brady didn't get him the ball. So I think you're going to see a much better game from Brady. He's going to pass for more than 200 yards. I also think that this Tampa Bay defense is really bad. And I think that was obvious when they gave up 23 points to Carolina. They gave up 38 points to the Saints. They gave up 27 points to the Rams, who suck on offense, actually, who are really, really good on defense. But I do think Tampa Bay's offense is quite potent. You don't randomly put up 46 points on Carolina, and I just think they will figure it out. And I think Antonio Brown will be featured this game. I think they're going to see why he's there, and I think Brady's going to ball out. After that 3 points against the Saints, he dropped up 46 against Carolina. And again, the Chiefs gave up 31 points to Derek Carr, and they don't even have any receivers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Outside of maybe obviously Waller and maybe Ruggs, but they don't have nearly the threat that Tampa Bay does. I think it's going to be a high-scoring affair. And don't forget, the Kansas City gave up 31 points to Carolina, too. They've given up back-to-back 31-point efforts. I like the over here. I think it's going to be a high-scoring affair. I think it's going to be a fantastic, fun game. It probably goes over.
Yeah, well, one thing, I tell you what, when Arians said they're over, they're open, they were open. Mm-hmm. Let me ask you this question, seriously. Let me ask you this question. In my mind right now, I don't think Tom Brady can throw the deep ball anymore. Not with any degree of accuracy. I don't think he can throw the deep ball anymore. I think that's part of the problem, Arun.
Yeah, I think he's been dumping the ball for a long time now. I mean, that's part of the reason why the Patriots weren't that great before. I mean, they didn't have a deep ball threat either.
That was his entire career, was dink and dunk. Edelman, Amendola, running backs in the flat. He made a living doing that with Josh McDaniels in New England, and people were clueless to frickin' stop it. Now when it's on his shoulders where he's got 3rd and 12, whatever, and they have a lot of penalties, by the way, offensively too. Tampa Bay does. They're undisciplined offensively. The 3rd and 2, and all of a sudden flag, illegal procedure, all of a sudden 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8. And he's got to go out over the middle with an accurate pass, even in a Tampa 2 covered defense against them. I have not seen him be able to throw a 15 to 30-yard pass with a hell of a lot of velocity and a hell of a lot of accuracy, and I think that's half their problem. And I don't give a rat's ass whether you got Brown, Evans, Godwin, whoever you got out there. Anything past 25 yards, I don't think he's willing to throw it down the field. And secondly, I don't think he's willing to stand in the pocket and take the hit in order for them to get open and shake loose 25, 30 yards down the field. I think that's a lot of their problem, honestly.
Yeah, I think a lot of teams took notes when Joe Judge of the Giants faced Brady, because he used to coach with Brady he's from the Patriots organization. And I think he took down a lot of notes, and that's why he struggled against the Giants. I think people are trying to let Tom give him the deep ball, and they're just going to crowd the running game / 15 and in. And they're going to say, if you can beat us past 15 yards, then do it. But I don't. He struggles with that ball. And I mean, even the game against Carolina, it was a lot of plays that receivers made after the catch, and Carolina has a lot of young defensive backs, so they're going to challenge him. And I think that's the reason why I wanted Antonio Brown, because he can get some separation that maybe other receivers can't, to help his life a little bit. But I think Brown. I like the over with Antonio Brown as far as yards and catches this game too. I think he'll be heavily featured in this game.
Yeah, him and Evans both. If you got them on your fantasy team, you're going to like them. I'll tell you that right now. He's Arun Shiva. He's over at DocSports.com. Up above, we got a free $60 banner. Down below, we got a link. You can go click on a link and get it done this weekend in college or pro football. And some college hoops as well, right there at DocSports.com. So be sure and take advantage of that. Want to wish everybody out there a great Thanksgiving, a safe Thanksgiving, an interesting Thanksgiving with the COVID and what we're allowed to do and not do, or what we should do and shouldn't do. It's kind of a crazy world out there, but we got all of our feet firmly planted on the ground over there at DocSports.com this weekend, so you can stuff the bird with a little bit of cash. For Arun Shiva, that's Indian Cowboy, I'm Tony George. Enjoy your Thanksgiving and enjoy your NFL weekend.